16,000 people have gone missing in Alaska.
16,000?
Since 1988.
Poof, gone.
Yeah, just gone. Just gone. You give the percentage, because Alaska is a very sparsely populated state. It has about the population of San Francisco in an entire state.
Sure.
So 16,000 is a very large percentage of people to go missing. And they do disappear right in front of people. 2012 Mountain Marathon race, Michael LeMaitre, he's a member of the race, mile and a half up the mountain, right in public view, goes missing, never comes back down off the mountain in the middle of a race.
Of these 16,000, Mike, do they ever find any of them dead?
Well, there are some natural causes for some of these. Sure, people go out in the woods.
Oh, absolutely.
And they go missing in the woods. There are kidnappings, things like this. But there are several that are just never seen or heard from again, and nobody knows what happened.
Do they ever come back alive?
Not usually, no. Every once in a while you hear a case of somebody who, they're with a friend, they stepped off the path because they heard a noise or whatever it was. And all of a sudden they find themselves deep in the woods, have no idea how they got there, can't find their way back to the path. And it might be a couple weeks later that they're finally found. And their story is, I have no idea how I got there.
But you don't have anybody who has come back and they say, oh my God, I walked into another dimension. I couldn't get back, but I found a hole and came in. You don't get that?
Well, there is a story of a young boy a few years back that was found by some hunters. They had some snowmobiles and they were out there on their way to a location that they were going to go hunt at. And they saw this boy just standing there amongst these bushes. There's no tracks leading up to this boy. And they take him in because he's cold and he's shivering. And the story that he tells after they bring him in is that he had been taken into the nearby mountain by these small people. And while he was there, he met this young girl who had been there for 40 years but didn't age. So time was very elusive in this area. For whatever reason, they decided to let him go, and he just emerged in this location where the hunters found him.
That's unbelievable.
Yeah, it's a bizarre
and planes
story.
disappeared too?
There are quite a few different stories about missing airplanes. The most famous would be the 1972 airplane that went missing, a small Cessna plane carrying the House Majority Leader, Hale Boggs, Congressman Nick Begich.
I know Nick Begich's son, Nick Begich Jr.
Jr., right.
And he talks about that incredible story. And they never found the plane.
They never found a thing. No, not at all. And other planes have gone down in that area, and they keep a lookout. Are we ever going to find that plane? It was the biggest search and rescue mission, by the United States. To that point in time, they had spy planes out there looking for them. Not a thing ever found. Completely disappeared.
How could you not find a plane unless something happened where it just disappeared?
Yeah, and that's where I think they're disappearing into some of these portals that are spawned up. Another famous one, 1950, a Douglas Skymaster, huge airplane carrying 44 military personnel. Day was in January, so it's a little chilly. And as they were crossing over Alaska into the Yukon territory of Canada, near the snag area, they just completely disappeared. Not a thing heard from them again. A couple of weeks later, there was a smaller plane that went down in that area. They were able to find that one just perfectly fine. But this huge Douglas Skymaster, which, again, they had thousands of people out there looking for some sort of wreckage that may have gone down. Nothing at all.
Nothing. No. Wow, it's unbelievable.
Yeah, it is very surprising that you could not ever find one piece of evidence. And there were people, trying to, give reports of, we heard this over here, and we thought we heard an explosion. And they go out and investigate, and there's nothing there.
Is there ever any UFO activity out there, Mike?
Well, it's very interesting. With that Douglas Skymaster story, a couple of days beforehand, around the Kodiak area, just south of Anchorage, there was a rather significant UFO sighting, which involved the U.S. Navy. There were some bright lights that were seen in the sky by a Navy patrol pilot. Yeah. And then a couple of hours later, the USS Tillamook, which is a Navy vessel, there were several witnesses aboard that ship that, again, saw strange lights that one described it as it looked like a red glowing exhaust. Other described it as like an orange ball of fire. And this went on for several hours, and this was just days before that Douglas Skymaster went missing.
Amazing. Now, what about the activity of the sun? Does that have a bearing on any of this?
It does. I think that's something that people kind of forget and don't really consider. But the Earth's magnetic shield around our poles is thinner, and so when the solar flares coming from the sun smack into the Earth's atmosphere, that's where we get these beautiful auroras. I saw several up there when I lived up there.
It's gorgeous.
Oh, it's very, very beautiful. Love it. But that creates higher electromagnetic field. And so, we hear about the mass coronal ejections that, hit the Earth, and they can knock out entire power grids.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
We've been a champion trying to get the grid protected because if an X flare hits us, we're toast.
Yeah, absolutely. So Alaska is really like this interesting cocktail of energy because you have the solar flares, you have the volcanic and seismic activity, then you have, of course, the magnetic activity that's coming up out of the ground too. So you have all of these factors playing into this triangle area.